So I thought I will share a little bit of what we learned about this community, as I think this topic has come up during the previous lab chat that people were talking about. We were having trouble to find trained or experienced BioEM technologists for many different places, and several colleagues have been mentioning about this. And so we've been discussing, and would like to find out if this is just a regional problem or it's a shortage of a much bigger scale. So the end of this survey is just trying to understand what's the status of these BioEM technologies workforce shortage. And we want to understand if people are not going into the field because of people are not satisfied with the job, or there's not enough people entering into the field. And we like to collect data to help us to promote BioEM technologies career, and then also help people to recruit, and also help us to use these data for job negotiation. And so the design of the survey is just including 41 questions. Probably just take 15 minutes for people to complete. And the data collected was just from June 16 to July 23rd. I would wish we would have more time to keep it open, collect more data, but because we wanted to present it in the microscopy meeting, so we stopped it after just a little bit more than a month. But we got more than 120 replies. So I think the data is pretty consistent, and it generates some useful information for us to discuss here. So the question is designed first ask people what type of jobs that you are in as a BioEM technologist, and what type of knowledge and skills that are required for you to seek this type of jobs that to be hired. How happy are we with our BioEM technology jobs? And also find out the age distribution and geographical location, just so we know that if the shortage is happening to certain age group or certain region. Okay, so I'm just going to briefly summarize some of the major topics here. And we do plan to publish this survey in microscopy today when I have everything organized and published. So again, this information will be passed along to the community. And I also want to thank many people who had participated in this survey. So we got, as I said, we got 122 responses and from 14 different countries. And 65% of the participants are from US. Okay, first, easy thing, gender distribution. This is a very gender neutral jobs that we have pretty much equal male and female distribution within the participant. But when you look at the education, you will see this is a really highly skilled profession. Most of us has a higher advanced degree. Like you can see 59% has a PhD degree, 22% has a master. And there's nobody's lower than the bachelor's degree. So most of people will have a bachelor degree before they can enter into the BioEM technologies career path. And so it is, I think it's pretty highly skilled, high requirement for education in order to enter into this field. And so when we looked at where we are, most of these BioEM technologies are working. Again, a large number of us working in academic institution, okay, 62% of us. And then the following with some industry and nonprofit still research institute, government, and some hospitals, okay. And then when you look at those lab functions, again, within these BioEM technologies, a large number of us work in core facilities. Okay, and even the one that don't work in the core facility, they are directly related with research. And so research lab is defined by the work within just one principal investigator. They are not working with multiple labs. And out of these 66% of core facilities, 80% we work through a fee-for-service platform, okay? And so that's the major thing of most of the BioEM technology and sample processing are nowadays are processed through core facility through a fee for usage system right now. And so when you look at the size of the EM lab, that for most of us to work with, and you can see most of the sites are pretty small. Okay, so the majority is between 2 to 3 or 4 to 5 staff members that are working together in the environment. Although some of these labs may not be just for EM, some of them they also work with light microscope or histology, things like that. But the majority are working with a small number of people for the work environment. And also we work with a very diversified positions. So you can see that we have various titles, although I'm sure the responsibility are overlapping, but depends on where you are. So some of us are called directors, some of us are called lab managers, and research specialists and research assistant, and some of them doesn't really have a title, but they function as a EM technology. Sometimes they work in a core facility setting because of the necessity or the setting of the institute. Okay, so within all these job titles, we do a diversified functions, and you can see this is a list of things that most of us are involved with, majority of it or some of them. And so even some of us are directors or lab managers, you can see the majority of us are still working in the lab, are conducting EM-related experiments. And we provide consultation, we do data analysis, manuscript preparation, training on instrument, training on technique. And also a large number of us also spend a lot of time on billing, invoice, which has really nothing to do with EM. And general lab management, we may be operating $1 million instrument in 1 minute, next minute we are washing dishes, and some of us do all level of things. Okay, so as I want to point out, our job is so diversified. Some of us are still involved with teaching, like credited teaching in the school, and we have to maintain our own website and still have to write grants. So this is quite a demanding job, and it's not clearly defined depending on where you are. Okay, so finally, we also like to ask how satisfied people are with their jobs. I know we are all in different institutes, like within different management system, administration system, but overwhelming number of us complain about the least thing we like about our job is no prospect for promotion. Okay, and the next one is unsatisfactory salary and heavy workload. This is consistently, we see these 3 big factors that affecting our job satisfaction. But let's look at the positive side. What do we like most of our jobs? Okay, so for us to stay in the job with, even though there's no prospect of promotion and low salary or lots of work, and a lot of us really enjoy the stimulating research. Again, that reflected the demand of research capability in this job, that we are all heavily involved with research and for biological EM. And so, as I said, most of us just enjoy the free spirit research environment, the flexibility, and also the work. We enjoy working with people who love science, who love microscopy. And the job is pretty secure. Once you are in an academic setting, I think we all know that it's very different than a commercial setting. The job is pretty secure, and the benefits are relatively good in an academic situation. Okay, and so satisfactory salary is a little bit low, and so, but we can still put up with it because we are all instrument nuts, because we love leading edge instrument. That's a lot of us choose that. That's one of the reasons we really like our job, because we get to work with really advanced instrument. Okay, so the job satisfaction, you can see that what we really like most is the health and safety, our environment is very well, and the current salary are okay. Okay, so we are not very satisfied, but we are not totally dissatisfied. But what we really don't like, again, is promotion timeline. So it's again during the survey, it keep coming out that people indicate they are really frustrated. We are not having a defined job career pathway. There's no promotion guideline. And the other thing, which is going to be what we are going to discuss, is lack of training that provided on site. Okay, so again, this comes up several times, and I'm going to have some more number to show people later on. So that's what the next thing that I try to find out is what we actually set out to see is what is the age distribution that in our current workforce. As you can see that we have very low number of 20 to 30-year-old here, and 31, 40, 41 to 50 is reasonably distributed. But what's alarming for me to see is there's still a lot of us at 61 and older are still forming a pretty significant part of the workforce. Okay, so when I presented this in the microscopy meeting, one person raised the issue that if most of these jobs require a PhD degree, of course, we are not going to see that many 20 and 30-year-old in the workforce because they might be still completing their PhD and finishing their training. So the other question the next question we ask is, are we overproducing PhD to do this job? Okay, this is something we can open the floor for further discussion. So I also asked our participants to tell me what they think, how long does it take to train a BioEM technologist? Okay, if we hire someone who has no experience, how much time you think you need to devote yourself to train this person? And again, overwhelming of us believe it takes 1 to 2 years to train someone. That means if you could not find anybody with EM experience to work with you, you'll need to plan on devoting at least 1 or 2 years to train this person. And also, if you want to enter this field as a novice, and you also need to prepare that it's going to take that much time for you to get really proficient to become an independent BioEM technologist. Okay, so the next thing I like to find out, are we spending enough time to train people? It is our job to make sure that someone will take over when we step down. And so when I ask people the percentage of time that BioEM technologists they spend on training comparing to non-EM administration, that means billing, invoicing, or lab management, nothing to do with EM related responsibility. And you can see the majority of us can only spend about 10% of our time on training, okay? And we spend quite a bit of time on administration, which really we could use that time to devote on science, on training. And also 47% of the respondents said they never trained a novice in their career. So again, that's probably because they were busy themselves, there's overworked, and or there's no opportunity for them to train people because they don't even have enough staff offered for them. Okay, so again, this is something we can discuss about it, that for us to address the problem with the shortage, is it because we are overworked and underappreciated, and a lot of people are not coming in the field? So as I earlier pointed out, that 59% of the participants have PhD degree. And when you look at these highly trained professional, 44 out of these PhDs, they work in academic institute. Yet less than 50% of them have academic ranks. So that means they were not put in a research career path, although they are devoting most of their time working on research. And is that correct? And again, you know, this is the trend. 40 out of 60 of these PhDs that they work in a position with no career path or guideline defined by their employer. And I think this is a serious problem, as as a core facility EM staff, that many schools and institutions ignore that they need to take care of these people. They need to take care of these highly trained and very devoted professional. And that may be one of the reasons that we have less and less people coming into the field. I'm going to be finished very soon here. Okay, so what do we learn? How do we learn BioEM techniques if we are devoting so little time to teach? And as you can tell that there's a lot of courses that use the several EM concentrated program has already been discontinued. So how do people try to learn BioEM techniques? Okay, so I asked people, what's the likelihood that how do they get their training? What are the resources? So some of people say that their vendor provided training, which is an important thing. And for me to see that we do get, I mean, working with vendor actually is beneficial for us because they do pass along many advanced information for us to learn things. When we are in an environment that there's very little job, on-site job training offered to us. And so you can see that paid and training course and workshop, the opportunities are not that much offered to us. And instead, most of us are learning EM technique by self-motivated learning. This is by going through YouTube or reading papers ourselves. And is this a correct job opportunity for us if we really want to develop more BioEM technologies and attract people to go in this field? Maybe the employer should really come up with, help us to get more on-job training for people, because right now, as you can see, most of us are learning by ourselves, that there's very little training courses that we are actually gaining from our to help us to do our jobs. So I'm going to close with just a few action points that we can discuss and how we can address this workforce shortage. And I think as we are as a community, and I think we need to just actively promote BioEM technologies career. And we need to make people recognize the contribution that to research that we do. And I think last session, people had talked about that. A lot of people think once they pay, they don't need to recognize us for our contribution. And I think that is quite wrong. Again, it's up to us to correct it. And as a community, we can push forward for that. And we need to establish more training courses and certification programs. I mean, we cannot always rely on us to motivate ourselves to learn. And we need to really have some environment to help us to learn on the job, to keep improving. And I think this is most of the profession, this is something should be in the career pathway. And we need to advocate BioEM technologies. I mean, overall, this is not a bad career because the pay, the job is secure, the pay is moderate and good. And although you don't have a lot of people complain about the promotion pathway, but we do work in a stimulating environment. I think that's the compensate of this job. Okay, I'm going to stop here. As I said, there's still a lot need to be analyzed, and I plan to finish that and then present it and publish as article in Microscopy today. And I want to especially thank a few people helped me with the design of the survey, that Paige Baluch and Marcela Radigolo, Han Chen, Claudia Lopez, and Kirk, and many other people also giving me feedback along the way. I'm going to stop here, and just feel free to contact me if you have any feedback or any question about this survey.